Hi, I'm Michael Weber, Artistic Director of Chicago's Porchlight Music Theater. Welcome to the Movie Musical Monday podcast. This series of recorded conversations explores all our favorite film musicals, from Broadway adaptations to Hollywood originals, as our rotating host and guest conversationalists open a discussion in which you are invited to participate. Today's movie musical is the 2008 film adaptation of the 1999 West End production Mamma Mia, a jukebox musical featuring the songs of the pop group ABBA that later became a smash hit on Broadway. The film became the highest-grossing movie of all time in the UK, smashing the previous record set by Titanic in 1997. Today's host is actor Michael Lindner, who starred in Porchlight's 2004 production of Sweeney Todd and appeared as Harry in the national tour of Mamma Mia. His guests are Susie McMonagle, who starred as Donna in Mamma Mia on national tour, and Elizabeth Lado, who played Rosie in Mamma Mia at the Drury Lane Theatre. Let's go to the conversation.
Awesome. Well, first of all, thank you everybody for joining us tonight. Michael, you introduced Elizabeth and Susie as two extraordinary Chicago actors. I would go much further, and I would say that these two women that we have with us tonight are actually two of the finest women in all of American theater. And it's a great pleasure to be. I mean it. I do.
Oh, you're so sweet.
And it's a real pleasure to have them, to host this and to chat with this musical that I love dearly. I love this musical, and I love it. I think, despite what it is, right? Because on paper it sounds ludicrous, and in practice, it's actually, I think, one of the great joys of my life. I love this show so much. It does. I think what Mamma Mia does, and you can certainly pick it apart and criticize it. I think that what this musical does better than so many musicals that are written is that it does what it sets out to do, which is to bring joy, to make people happy. And boy, does it deliver, right? Lado, you played Rosie at Drury Lane, Oak Brook. McMonagle, you played Donna now twice or two times, right? You did it on tour and then you did it at Oak Brook. And you both know, right, what the audience response is to this show.
Yep.
It's off the charts. It does what it sets out to do. It makes people happy. Before we dig into this movie, tell me a little bit about your Lado. You start. Tell us
Well, I want to say one thing about Susie McMonagle. So, and by the way, my mom has joined us. Mom, wave. Thank you for coming on, Sharon Lado, because we had an interesting experience with this play many years ago that I'll share down the road. But Susie would every night. First of all, she never missed a performance,
and it's a tough role.
Requirements of
it's a tough role.
It is an absolute, and in January and February in Chicago, when you've got the elements and you're driving out to Drury Lane and you could easily go, God, I just can't do it today. And she was there every night. She never missed a performance. And every night she would be backstage with us in our dressing room. And she'd be like, oh, you guys, I don't know if I'm going to hit that note and Winner Takes It All. I just don't know if I'm going to. And we're like, yeah, no, you got it. You got it. You're going to be all right. And if I've learned anything in the great experience of working with amazing people, there is no one like this woman. She is a warrior. She nailed it every night. And every night that audience got to go home with just, I think, the finest storytelling of it. And I agree with you, Michael. I think it's a valuable story. I think it's fun. And it's exactly what you said. It brings joy. It is something where it's just like somebody, like people get, when they get up and they get to dance. I think that it's also because it invites the audience to include themselves in it, which we don't know, a lot of times it's like, stand back, let the actors do what they're doing. This is a musical where it's like, come in with us, get on in here. get on in this. We need you with this. But I do have to just give a shout out to you, Suze, because you're just,
oh, come on.
I'll piggyback. Let me piggyback. And I'm going to tell you, I truly believe that I think, Susie, I think you are hands down the best Donna that there ever was.
100%.
I think you are made for the part. So now Leto and I have said really nice things about you. So now you say nice things about us.
You guys, well, thank you so
Not that
much
good of an actor.
for saying that. And I have the highest praise for both of these two, and also really fun to work with. And we can talk about those fun stories at a later time. But I loved Mamma Mia when I saw it. I mean, at first I'm thinking, what is this? What is this show? What is ABBA? I never really was into ABBA. I was into the Knack and Supertramp. And anyway, and within 2 minutes, I was taken away by it. You know what I mean? You just give yourself into it. And I think for me, one of the things that has made it such a hit is that I think people can see themselves somewhere. Who am I? Am I Donna? Am I Rosie? You know, am I Charlie's Angels? Which one am I? Like, there's somebody that you can identify with in the older cast, or the adult cast, or the younger cast. And I think that's part of it, is that you're sort of rooting for your, you know, who your angle is into the show. The music is fantastic, and I think, for me, the backup vocals are paramount to this show. And you'll see, we can talk about the movie as well, that's how ABBA wrote the music for all of that. And in the stage version, it's a big priority to get those vocals right. Mm-hmm. And you don't see them because they're the Greek chorus that's off stage, but you are singing and you have all of those vocals to back you up. And I think that's something unique. You know, take a chance, you know, you would never see that in Oklahoma.
Do you guys think that they made a decision to put it in a Greek island because of this idea of a Greek chorus? Because I haven't ever thought about that, Susie, till you brought that up. Like,
I don't know. I mean, it is the prettiest place in the entire world, and it's on my bucket list to go there. And you can even do
it in like Bali. They could have done any. I'm just saying, like, is there something about this Greek thing that you brought up?
You might be well right. What do you think, Mike?
I don't know. I read about it earlier, and now I don't remember what they said about it. But I think that whatever it is, it's like it works. All these weird things kind of come together, and they work really well. Even the story, I think the story is a pretty good story for a jukebox musical, right? I mean,
totally.
It totally makes sense, and the music is awesome. I did over 800 performances, and I never got tired of the music. I always found joy in it, and it always excited me. And Susie, you're right about being backstage. Like, we had the privilege of being backstage, and we could hang out by the booths and listen to the ensemble. Well, you couldn't because you were always on stage, but I could hang out backstage and listen to the ensemble singing these backup tracks, and it was really truly like one of the coolest parts of the show. So now that's the stage play, but we're here to talk about the movie. Now, you started talking about the setting. One of the things that this movie gets really right, I think the cinematography is really beautiful for much of the film, and we really get like the feeling of really truly being there on this little Greek island. So, if there's a success to discuss, I mean, certainly the filming on location, the beautiful scenery, the ocean, all of that stuff is really a success. I would sort of start the conversation off by saying, and Paz, I bet Chris Pazernik, I bet you're on the same page as me with this. We'll see, maybe not. I feel like even though it's really pretty to look at, I feel like sometimes it's not the greatest movie to listen to. Music is such an important part of this show. One of the things I wonder about this, and we're digging right in here already in the discussion, one of the things I feel like this movie fights against a little bit is it a movie that has music in it, or is it a musical? And sometimes I feel like it clashes a little bit. And sometimes I feel like the emphasis isn't on the music. And do you remember, Susie, when we rehearsed on 42nd Street? I mean, they like every single note was not the acting. We could do whatever we wanted, but every note of that music was dictated to be, it was prescribed. It had to be done a certain way.
The keys, every single musical key had to be in the original key. You could not backphrase. It was, they would say, all right, you can take 2 beats to do whatever you want in the entire song. Other than that, it was like, I agree. Yeah.
So does the movie have enough of a focus on the music of ABBA? Does that even matter? Amanda, go ahead.
I personally feel like it worked. And I'm not sure if it's because I'm blinded by how much I love the music. So I'm like, it could never not work, in my opinion. But I also felt like I was watching them perform as if they were on stage. Like, I don't know. Like Meryl Streep, I felt was doing it like I'm really here and I'm singing it as this person. But then like, you know, even the opening song, Amanda, I felt like, oh, she's on a stage when she's doing this. So I don't know. It was like a weird mix in that movie of like, are they singing it on the location, or are they on a stage and I'm watching this? Like, yeah, that was what I kind of was like, But I think the music still works in the movie, but they should have maybe chosen a direction to go, whether it's going to be big or if it's going to be more like internal.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like it fights itself a little bit, and I don't know how else to describe that. Margaret mentioned here, poor Pierce Brosnan should never have been singing, but he got. I mean, he really that poor guy. He really got trounced in the reviews.
But he's so handsome.
She's right. Like then, guess you know what? And this is the argument of casting anything. Then get somebody that can do it.
And they didn't want.
There's a lot of pretty men out there.
I think they hired actors. I think that they
hire actors that sing.
But I think it didn't matter to them. Maybe there's something to do. Like when I saw Les Mis, the movie, having done Les Mis, I was really criticizing the vocals because Les Mis is basically an opera. But Mamma Mia is like everybody you know sings Mamma Mia in their car. Like it didn't bother me that much that they weren't fabulous singers. I'd rather have a good actor any day.
Well, I'd rather have a good actor any day too. I'm with you, but I just mean like it almost seemed like he was uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah.
And so like that's when it's like when somebody seems they're like a little uncomfortable, where he was just like, I'm like, listen, I'll watch Thomas Crown Affair any day. But I mean, he just did not, that standing in the doorway, seeing, you know, and he was just like, and I'm like, oh, honey, oh gosh.
And then they gave him that song at the end. Like, I was like, what? Come on now. We've had enough of Pierce.
That song was a mistake. Art, you had your hand up. You had something to say.
Yeah, I mean, I actually had a bigger problem with Pierce Brosnan than his singing. And that is, I couldn't picture his character and Meryl Streep ever being together. Yeah. They seemed total polar opposites. And even when he was younger and supposedly more carefree, I suppose, I couldn't possibly imagine them ever being together.
I think that's I felt really the same thing.
Just going back to the music super quick, what it felt to me is that they kind of went for what I would call the karaoke approach to the whole movie. In that,
totally.
You know, if it's like after a wedding reception or whatever, everybody goes to karaoke, and even your drunk father-in-law, who should never be singing, gets up to sing. And so I have to think that they knew that these people, for the most part, weren't great singers. But it was the joy of like, oh, you can't actually go to a karaoke bar with Pierce Brosnan, but we're going to give you that experience in the movie, and you get to see him try and sing. doesn't matter if it's good or not. Most people aren't very good at karaoke, and that's like the whole fun of it. I don't think that was entirely successful. I'm with Leto. I'd much rather hear actors who can sing it, but I think they felt like people would enjoy watching the attempt so much that it didn't matter.
I hear you. I will say this though. Sam has the hardest vocal track next to Donna.
Yeah.
Like in regards to, I mean, if we're going to put value on ABBA music, which we should, because I think they wrote incredible music, and they did they require some really vocal gymnastics for people at times. Then I get it for the other two. Sam has to sing a couple of the hardest songs like Donna does. I mean, Rosie doesn't, we have a couple things that are challenging, but I mean, you've got these two people that are going to sing the hardest songs in the ABBA canon in the way that's being put in. And I'm like, well, then give it to someone who can sing. Let the other guys be kind of fluid in what they can do, and the girls, because I think that serves the music. And at the end of the day,
Kevin Kline maybe.
Well, and he would have had maybe a little more charm. I kind of agree with Art. I feel like I think that Sam is a really, really hard role to play because on paper he's kind of boring, and you're right, Leto. He's got really hard songs to sing, and in the stage version, he's got to sing "Knowing Me, Knowing You." Right? Is that the one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Knowing me, knowing
and it doesn't,
you.
and it doesn't make any sense. So it's even harder, but they cut it from the musical. But I'll talk about that in a minute. Robin Simone sent a text here, a chat, and I don't know if you saw it, but the movie that they sort of feel like this is based on is a Buona Sera, Mrs. Campbell, which has a very similar storyline. And the speculation is that they set the movie in Greece instead of Italy to sort of break up any similarities between.
Oh my gosh, I love that, Robin. Thank you.
So really
we learned something new.
I love that. Thank you, Robin.
Yeah. Kevin Kline, would have been, and Kevin Kline, we know, is a great singer. Mindy, you've got your hand up.
Hi.
Hi, Mindy.
Hi.
Hi, Mindy.
Hello. I haven't seen it on stage, and I'd like to, because I really did not like this movie. I apologize, no offense to anyone who has been in it, but I was familiar with the songs, so it felt to me that, okay, we have a song, so what kind of circumstance do we need to push into this song? And that's why I wish we had better singers with the men. The women were great. I mean, whenever the women and Christine Baranski and Julie Walter, whenever they were running around doing their thing, I loved it. But then the men were just, hi, we're a bunch of guys that, you all know, and we can't sing. So it just, I was kind of thrown out of it. I never felt engrossed in it. I was just giggling every time Pierce Brosnan tried to sing, because I'm thinking, well, shoot, Hollywood, just hire me then. So that's kind of where I'm at. So I'm looking forward to, if we ever get out of the house, seeing it on stage, and maybe you guys will be in it. So.
Mindy, you're my Sam in the next version. You're my Sam.
Thank you.
Got it.
Right here, Rob.
Got it.
I can't carry a tune at all. I'll be perfect.
Doesn't matter.
It's interesting, that perspective. I can't imagine. I really wonder what my reaction would be to the movie if I had never seen the stage show.
Yeah.
To compare it against. Is anybody else out there? Have you seen only the movie and not ever seen the show on stage?
Several.
Gotcha. Interesting.
I've seen both. Yeah.
You've seen both, Sharon.
I love the stage production. And then, of course, I'm biased about the one at Drury Lane, needless to say. I just enjoyed it because I like the sheer entertainment of the music and the storyline. And I kept thinking, oh, my, how can they develop a storyline? Because the music obviously was written and performed first, long before that storyline. And I think that's really creative. So I've seen both. I really like the stage production better than the movie.
I think one thing that we haven't mentioned is that the stage version and the movie version had the same director, the same music director, the same choreographer. Right. So, all of that, think about that for a minute. Like you're the director of the stage version. I'm going off on a tangent here and saying, okay, Susie, here you are. You're in your taverna and you hear a boat in the distance and you look out looking, into the audience. You look out and you see the boat coming into the dock. In a director's mind, she had all of this in her imagination when she staged the show. But when she had the opportunity to do the movie, she could say, oh, and there's the boat. or the scuba guys, the lay all your love guys with the flippers, oh, and they come out of the ocean. Well, here they are right out of the ocean. Like how cool would that have been to be
realize
able to,
your vision. Yeah.
I don't know.
I think, but that's so interesting that I didn't know that. And that's what's fascinating about this, because I do think, and I don't know if this is partial because I've been in a stage production of it, but I think the stage production, I think it works better on stage than in a movie.
100%.
Well. And I think it's because you have the limitations. And so you have to kind of you bring in these wonderful ideas of I'm going to make this scope of this incredible, this, beautiful scenery. And I want to create it into the energy of the people on stage. And that basically it's saying, I need you all actors to recreate. I need you guys to create the environment of being on an incredible Greek island, being in this, intense situation of a marriage and all these things. And then all this stuff's happening and it's all concentrated and it's all put in a jar. And I think that makes it work rather than going, I can have it all released in a film. That's fascinating that it's.
I think that's a great point for sure.
James, I was going to call on you, and then Leto started talking about.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah,
no, it's okay. I think one of the things as we're working in Zoom and we've been out of the theater for a year, I think the stage version incorporates the audience into a way that watching in the movie or watching it at home on your television doesn't do, because it's like a typical jukebox musical that if you've never seen it before and all of a sudden you're surprised because you know every single song. So as soon as the song begins, all of a sudden you're like, I love this song. And you look at your friend and they love this song and you're like, yeah. But at home, you're just like, well, that's nice. And the other thing about the movie that I didn't care for, which I think is a part of the stage version, but it just doesn't work as well as a movie. It just seems sort of crazy, like the leads into songs. Like, it's just so bizarre to me. Like, she's Meryl Streep or whatever is working hard in the kitchen and she's like, I don't know how I'm ever going to pay for these bills. And then she looks at the camera, I work all night. I work all day. It's like, that's just weird.
Yeah.
But that's, I think, I was just going to say, I think the live atmosphere adds to so much enjoyment, especially when it's this music that everybody knows.
Is it? I think it's is it Dancing Queen when all the women on the island drop everything they're doing and follow along and go down to the waterfront? They tried to capture that, I think, a little bit, the feeling that this is for all women everywhere, and that doesn't really work. Doug, I think Doug was next. Doug had your hand up.
Yeah, I don't agree that the stage version works better than the movie. I think the movie's delightful, but they work very differently. Like James, I saw the touring show when it came to Chicago. Audience full of baby boomers, and the whole joke for us was, how are they going to work? Get Chiquitita in there. Oh, there's the way. And we all, like you said, laughed, and some people sang along. Delightful. In the movie, there's not that. There's not going to be a give and take. It's a movie. But I like, that with the setting. And by the way, Elizabeth, last year I had a student who did a paper on exactly that it was the Greek chorus and set in Greece, that was all intentional. But I like I like it the way they said it. It's sort of a Shangri-La away from the rest of the world, almost an imaginary place they're in, which I think serves it well.
I agree. I think the setting is beautiful and so fun. And Amanda and I are going to go on a beachfront vacation. Florine, thanks for being patient.
We should all go.
We should all just go, right?
At this point, let's all go.
Go ahead, Florine.
Okay, let's say we have seen it both places, but we saw the original in London in '99.
Oh, wow.
And we have to tell you, we walked in and all we could get was a top balcony. It was supposed to be obstructed view, but they weren't. And we can't tell you all the details because we were surrounded by Swedes. So everybody all around us were standing up, moving the whole time. We thought the balcony was going to fall down. You could feel the movement. So we couldn't tell you all the details of the show, because it was the music for whatever, 2 hours. And, then we have seen it other places, both, but we had to tell you that story.
That's
amazing.
Incredible.
In December of '99, it started. I think in April of '99 there in London.
It was actually a honeymoon trip.
It was actually. We could not get tickets before, but we walked up, and that story. We walked up and got tickets. Yeah.
What theater were you at?
Oh, it was at the. We read where it was. We couldn't remember where it was, but
Prince Edward, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's where it started.
And then it moved.
Yeah, it moved somewhere else. But
which is notable. Let me jump in. It's notable because Prince Edward is also where the original production of Chess ran in London.
Yeah.
Which is another musical by the ABBA folks.
Thank
you. Musical theater nerd Chris Pasternak, who knows
he knows
about every musical ever written.
Everything.
So Susie and I have sort of an interesting story along those lines. I won't bore you with too many details, but too late. We were traveling to Philadelphia. It was a travel day, and the company, like the whole Mamma Mia company in North America, hosted not a premiere, but like a movie event in Times Square, where basically they invited anybody who had ever been a part of any production of, the Broadway tour of Mamma Mia, and they bussed us from Philadelphia to New York on that evening when we traveled to New York. Then they bussed us. We traveled to Philly, then they bussed us to New York, and we got to go. They rented out the 42nd Street AMC, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You didn't go, but it was super cool. And you saw all the cast from all these different iterations of the show. And I think Phillida Lloyd was there, and Christine Baranski was there. And she talked to us before they showed, and they had popcorn and sodas, and we watched the movie all together with Mamma Mia family. But Susie, you didn't go.
Well, I didn't go because I had Elliot with me, my son, I was homeschooling him on the road. Don't ask me. And he was like, wherever we were before Philadelphia, it was like a 4-hour bus ride to Philly. Then we had to check into our hotel. And then it was like, meet downstairs in the lobby. And Elliot was like, I don't want to go to New York. So he won. But I did see it later. And it was weird to see it at the time that you're doing it.
At the time you're doing it, yeah.
I was like, and my first reaction was like, oh my gosh, she's not singing that note. Oh, she's mixing that. Or they took so many liberties. But then I was like, it's Meryl Streep. Stop, but it was so.
I think that's a valuable point to make if we're going to talk about this, is that what you were required to do 8 times a week for 9 weeks, you did. And she gets to do that didn't feel good. I want to do it again. And she can do a retake, and she's not even hitting the right notes all the time. So I just need to speak out on I know this is about the movie, but this is essentially about the movie, is that's the luxury of film.
Yeah.
And the challenge of live theater, and why it's the better part of art.
But it's a completely different craft, being on camera, and then
completely different craft.
And then having to be sincere in these scenes and play them like you play a scene when you're TV or movie acting, which I think is super hard to do because I'm primarily a stage actor, and then to transition into these out there songs, these ABBA songs. I mean, it's challenging.
I agree.
She was on the cliff, though. She was on that cliff with the wind in her hair and that church, and the winner takes it. I could have.
Oh, if only it had been you, Susie, what you could have done with that scarf and that cliff.
That red scarf.
The fedora. The fedora.
That's right.
So Robin asks in the chat, is Mamma Mia the first jukebox musical? And I would say to Weber and Chris Pasternak, isn't Do Re Mi the first jukebox musical?
The way we did it, it was, well, she's being specific. Robin says, is this the first jukebox musical of the current
current era?
Which, is a little differentiating. I think we go back to shows like Leader of the Pack or Buddy as some of the first jukebox musicals. But I mean, of the new modern era of musicals, I think an argument could be made about Mamma Mia. It was a real, it kind of exploded a whole genre, which now gave us the Cher Show and It Ain't Too Proud and all of these other
Jagged Little
Turner, the Jersey Boys, all of these other things followed Mamma Mia. But that Elvis one, what is it? All Shook Up.
Shook Up, yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely the relaunch of a genre, I think, that I kind of pulled back for a little while.
But the concept is an old one. The idea of I don't know if you'd call it a pastiche or whatever, where you have a story and you weave in popular music of the era. I mean, you could go, there's many instances of musicals that took different popular songs and put them into a storyline. But in the current era, I'd say it's arguable.
And then, of course, there's the kind of musicals that are like My One and Only or Crazy for You, which rob from other musical trunks of Irving Berlin or Cole Porter, things like that. But that goes back to the old movies, really, with things like White Christmas or Easter Parade. Those are kind of like jukebox musicals of their era, that they were doing songs, though, from the 19s.
Doug said American in Paris. That's a good...
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Singing in the Rain is another one,
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
So the device kind of goes back, but that really goes when you have people like Irving Berlin and Cole Porter or people like that who had huge songbooks and a lot of flop shows, so that people weren't reviving productions of Do Barry Was a Lady, but the show is jam-packed with a lot of great songs, and then they stick them into something like High Society. So it's a long-lasting tradition. You're absolutely right, Michael.
Snapshots. They're doing it right now.
Absolutely.
Which I did at
We're playing it.
I'm not going to comment on that. But Stephen Schwartz, it was, and he was involved, and it was like songs from Wicked, but with different lyrics. So they kept the melodies, but.
Susie, we're hosting that show at Porchlight right now. We have that production, but it's not with you and Gene Wygant, and so it can't be any good.
I have to say it, and I'll say it in public. It was the worst at the time. Let's hope they've made some changes. It goes down in the history of my career as one of the worst pieces of doo-doo that I have ever. Oh, it was so bad.
I remember that show.
Oh my God. And it was like snap, and the camera goes snap. And then I auditioned
for it. I remember reading it and I thought, oh no.
And I wanted to do it because I was like, wow, Stephen Schwartz is going to be in this. This is going to be a big deal. And I had to belt Meadow Lark at the audition. And then I got in it, and it was just, goes down in history. Okay.
So
I digress. Carry on.
So one of the really fun things about Mamma Mia is the casting, right? Who would have ever thought? I mean, Meryl Streep is so exciting to have playing Donna, and she's so great. And I think it's partly why this was the highest grossing film in UK history until Avatar came along, and I think knocked it out of the box office record holder. But and I think Cher was, I think initially was supposed to play Tanya, and then she couldn't do it because she had her own stuff going on. But what like, I don't know, what's your own dream casting? If you could, if they remade this movie, who would play these parts today? Or Paz, go ahead.
I'm in love with this woman. I mean, if we couldn't do it with actual stage stars, I mean, I'd buy a ticket to see the three of you in it every day of the week. But if we're thinking movie stars, Toni Collette has a phenomenal voice and has been campaigning for every movie musical under the sun ever since she got to Hollywood. And I think she'd make a great Donna.
I love you. Yep.
She'd be great.
She can do, you know what? She can do anything.
Yeah,
I'll
really
put that up there. You can do any video about any show, and you could be like, she could play anybody. She can play Willie Loman. I don't care. She's
amazing. What
okay,
about
who's the guy? Sorry.
What about the men? What about, hey, Mindy, did you have an idea, Mindy?
I was just going to say, this is the point of the discussion where we're contractually obligated to say Jake Gyllenhaal. It's just what we say every single week. So I'm good. In fact, that's what I was thinking. We keep talking about how great Jake Gyllenhaal can sing. And I said, I bet he'd do better than Pierce Brosnan, but he's probably too young for that part.
Maybe, although now he probably would be, he could do it now, I think.
Pierce Brosnan, you think so?
No, I mean, Jake Gyllenhaal.
Have a 20-year-old daughter.
Yeah, I think he'd be old enough now.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right.
I'd buy that ticket, Mindy.
Michael, who's the guy that? Sorry, he does like singing in the cab, and he has a show, and he did the baker. He did the baker.
James Corden.
Yes.
Yeah.
He could do any of those roles, but I think he'd be a cute Harry, not as good as.
Gotta get it. No, you have to have a gay Harry.
Yeah, I think you have to have a gay guy play
No,
Harry, right?
Stuff about prom.
Yeah, he can't do it now. After prom, I don't think he can.
He can't play a gay guy again.
He's going to get in a lot of trouble. So one of the things that I actually really miss from the movie versus the stage show, I miss a lot of the songs. So here are some of the songs that are excluded from the movie that are in the stage show and I happen to love most of these songs. One of Us, great song. Knowing Me, Knowing You is always a tough one because I feel like it doesn't tell the story. It's like it's where we sort of derail in the stage show and it feels like a pop song and we're not telling the story. But regardless, it's not in the movie. Name of the Game is not in the movie. And they added When All Is Said and Done, which I don't think is a great tune and not sung particularly well. And then they really truncated the wedding. I do is pretty brief. It's almost like a cameo, like when Donna sings Fernando. Name of the Game is in part 2, which I haven't seen part 2. I need to see part 2. But if
the biggest one.
What?
The biggest one that was not in the movie.
Who is what?
And Elizabeth Lato sang it.
No,
Take a Chance.
Take a Chance is in the movie.
When is it?
Oh yeah, it's after the
I
wedding.
went to the bathroom at that point.
You might have gone to the bathroom.
You went to the bathroom, McMonagle. Yeah, they couldn't cut that. It's like
I thought they cut that. My bad.
They couldn't cut that because it's like the best thing that ever happened to the movie.
It is a fan favorite moment. But they also, my favorite song, and probably a lot of people disagree with me, is the weirdo Act 2 dream sequence opener in the stage show, Under Attack, which I love, and is like in the stage version on Broadway had neon day glow tuxedos, and we pushed the beds around, and Sophie's having this nightmare. It's not in the film either. What of these songs is there one that you miss more than another, or do you think they were judicious cuts?
That one is a judicious cut. The one you just said. I think that thing should be cut from the play.
I love it. I do. I love it. I just think it's weird and fun, and I think it's a little cliche, but it's a fun. I think it's a fun way to open Act 2. Well, I know you'd do better if you wrote it, Lato.
Well, so we have to talk about the elephant in the room, right? We're talking about a play and we're talking about a movie. The movie can go fluid. The movie has all these opportunities to tell a story in a way that you can't do on stage. I think that one of the things that the movie does really well is that it kind of goes, because it does like extra, it doesn't even do a full song sometimes, right? You kind of have, at some points, there's just like these little like touches, grace notes of a song, because they don't need to do more because they can do it cinematically. Whereas on stage, you're going to go, we have to complete the song because it's got to be a musical number, and that's what it is. And that's a challenge. That's the device that is a challenge and also an exciting part of it all. That being said, starting in Act 2 with that song and with that kind of demand theatrically, I think is unnecessary. I found it impractical, to be perfectly honest. I don't think we need it. I think we get it in the storytelling. I think that the movie tells you that actually. It actually can inform the play when people are doing the play.
I would argue that I think it helps us understand why Sophie decides not to get married in the end. I think it's the sort of...
She's having nightmares about it.
But I think you see that otherwise. Do you not, Susie? I mean, you played again. I mean, you have that great scene where you see you walk in on that.
Yeah, but that's her nightmare, right?
Mm-hmm.
Paz, what's up?
I find this in some very commercially oriented contemporary musicals. Sometimes they put something at the top of Act 2 that is not, to Lado's point, entirely dramaturgically necessary because
to get people to their seats.
Everyone's going to the bathroom.
It's basically like a more interesting entr'acte, right? We used to have this convention of an entr'acte at the top of Act 2 that has long since gone by the wayside. So it's like a halfway measure. Well, this is more interesting than an entr'acte, but if you're still in line at the bar when it starts, you're not going to miss anything.
A great point.
A great point, for sure.
A great point, and that's exactly what that makes complete sense. I just check off too much.
I miss the song "One of Us" a lot, and Susie, you always sang that really beautifully.
Thank you. That's one of my favorite songs in that show.
Mindy, I think you had your hand up.
I did. At the end, when she decides to marry Pierce Brosnan's character, it felt very shoehorned in. Is the play a little more? Does it feel more naturalistic, or is it that same kind of thing?
I think someone earlier brought up the point that he didn't buy that relationship between Pierce and Meryl, and I would totally agree. Yeah. I think I think it's the actors, because basically the dialogue is very similar to the dialogue, in the stage version, and if you don't have two actors that you buy their relationship, right, it doesn't work. And I think that was a flaw. And somebody brought that up earlier.
Don't you think Sam and Donna have a little bit more time together in the play than they do in the movie?
They don't have a lot of time together at all.
Well, I'll tell you, Harry and Donna have a lot more time together on the stage play. Harry and Donna have like nothing to do in the movie.
Yeah. They don't have Our Last Summer. That was...
It's sung by Sophie on the boat instead of Thank You for the Music. Right. Yeah. Exactly. Oh, and Thank You for the Music isn't really in it's in the end credits, but there's a lot of, in fact, the first 25 minutes of the movie, there's not a lot of music, and we don't get the overture, which I love a good overture.
Yeah. But we get the finale. That mega mix at the end was last.
Well, let's talk about the mega mix.
I'd love to talk about that, because when I rewatched it today, like that's the theatrical moment, right?
Oh,
totally. And it works, right? Doesn't it work in the movie? Do you think?
I think it works because it's like the girls are, but I wanted to be bigger. I don't know. I wanted more of it. Did you want more of it, or what do you think?
it could have been well, they kept it with the principal cast, and that's actually one of my bigger pet peeves about the movie on the whole. And Susie, we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. I feel like Mamma Mia is all about the ensemble, and truly, like, as great as much fun as the principals are, especially those principal women who we just completely fall in love with, the ensembles, they're the whole time supporting the action of the play as the Greek chorus and as these tremendous singers and tremendous dancers, and then they're there in the mega mix as well. At the end, and in the movie, we just spend time with the principal actors, which is great. Like, it's a lot of fun, and I think that it definitely feels like we've broken away from the convention of being a movie, and now we're on a stage, and it's all fantasy, and it's this great fun send off. It's always was a great joy to perform that live. I think it works in the movie really well. It's a fun send off.
I think it's so good. I watched it and I was like, oh, that's where it is. Like, that's when I was watching it today, I was like, oh, that's where I got juiced up about it,
Right.
And maybe it's this is hard to ask us who've done it live, because you get that thrill of doing this live to talk about the movie so you're just sitting there on your couch and watching it, and then you lived it once and you lived it with a group of people, like, going, oh my God, this is so exciting. This is an interesting dialogue and an interesting format to explore this, because they're really, really different organic experiences.
As a performer, though, you feel like a rock star, don't you? Every night at that mega mix.
Yeah. And the mega mix. Yeah. I was serious. I'm telling you, I was like, I was Madonna every night.
Totally. Mindy?
You were.
I just wanted to ask you guys, did you have to audition singing ABBA songs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for
sure. I auditioned 5 times.
Wow. So did they give you the ABBA songs, or you just picked the one you liked the best?
No, they made me sing they always wanted me to be Bill, and they never liked me. And then finally they had me audition for Harry, and they were like, I think we like you for Harry. And then I turned them down because I was about to have a baby. My wife was about to have a baby. And then my wife talked me into taking it anyway. So I took a 6-week-old baby on tour with me and my wife.
Wow. Crazy.
Susie and I were both road parents.
Yeah.
So we're gonna wrap it up here pretty soon. But before we do, I know the time has flown. Does anybody else have anything to contribute or questions or thoughts about the movie?
Can I share one story since my mom is on? Where's my mom? There she is.
Here. Right next to you on my screen.
My mom and I saw this play. We saw it on Broadway back in
right after February after 9/11.
9/11.
February.
And we were in the second row center. I could watch the conductor with his monitors and all this, and we were there. And I just come out to her. It had been a recent situation where I'd come out to her, and I was figuring out my parents are still married, but I was challenged by telling my dad, but I needed to tell my mom first. And we did this New York trip, and we went and we saw the play, and the scene, we're having this wonderful weekend together, and the scene where Donna sings when she's
slipping through my fingers.
And putting the veil on and doing all that stuff, and it's on the stage, and we're right there. And my mom looks at me and she said, "This is the hard part. This will be the hard part." And I have a relationship with this play and this musical and this story that they put together in a really interesting way, because, like, at one point I was kind of like, I can't carry that. Yeah. All I did was tell you my truth. Like, I can't carry that. Why am all of a sudden? Did I break something to you?
Oh, sure. That wasn't an intention of the mom.
No, but that's the person. Like, let me say, Mom, that wasn't what you did. You just were saying your truth and my truth, and we had this moment in this play because we both looked at each other, and I said, "I know, because it's mine too." Mm-hmm. And we had this great moment with this play and with this story and with this film, whatever. And we had that. And I am always great. I'm so grateful that I got to do it too as a performer. But like this has this narrative.
I thank you so much for sharing that.
It's a beautiful story.
Awesome.
Thank you for letting me
It's a devastating song.
But again, this now I'm getting back to a little bit of Cheeseville, but there is human story that goes on in the show, and you may make fun of Mamma Mia and say it's cheesy or whatever.
It's not.
But there's so many things that you can relate to.
That's exactly what she said that night. She said, it's kind of cheesy. I love this show. And she said, I think it's kind of cheesy. And I had just seen it with my girlfriends, a group of dear girls 6 months previously in Toronto. And she was saying, and I thought, oh, well, do I like something that's cheesy? Because here she's the professional. And I'm thinking, I think it's great.
Yeah.
Well, it is cheesy, and we love it because it's cheesy. Pazdernik, I'm going to let you wrap it up. What is your final thought on Mamma Mia?
Oh gosh, I wasn't prepared for this, Michael.
You had your hand up.
Oh no, my hand was up because Lado mentioned her story earlier, and my hand was only up because I wanted to make sure she got to tell it before we got off the conversation.
Well, I have a fun fact.
Okay, what's your fun fact, McGonagall?
That Benny and Bjorn, the two ABBA guys, make cameo appearances in the film. Michael, the first one, Benny is playing the piano.
Playing the piano. I saw that, but I didn't see the second one. What's the other one?
He's a Greek god I think somewhere in the finale. Anyway, just fun facts about Mama.
I love her so much.
This was so fun. This was fun.
This was fun. And
talk about the Mamma Mia Museum, and we didn't get to that. I'm sorry.
We didn't. And thanks everybody for participating and
thanks for inviting us, Mama.
Opinions. It was fun.
Oh my gosh, everyone! So lovely to see everyone.
Always. It's lovely to see anybody.
We'll be back
on because live theater is coming back.
We're coming back with them.
And I'm so proud of Porchlight for doing this and keeping people involved. And it's awesome.
100%.
Back to you, Michael Weber.
We hope you enjoyed this Movie Musical Monday podcast and that you'll join us live to participate in our next discussion. You'll find information about upcoming events on our website and how you can join in the conversation. Theaters across the country need your support now, more than ever. We hope you'll consider a donation to Porchlight Music Theater today. Just go to porchlightmusictheater.org. Until next time on Movie Musical Mondays, I'm Michael Weber.